The NASCAR Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. SGPN is teaming up with Shady Rays for Shady May. Get 50% off your Shady Rays using promo code SGPN, and then go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500. We're also brought to you by the Edge Boost. Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to get started today.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Coming to you and wrapping up Throwback Weekend. It is, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez, digging Cody, the number 38, as we established before that we started this. David Gilliland hat. Loving it. Loving the wrap-up of Throwback Weekend.
Yes, my final piece of Throwback Weekend. This is the M&M's sponsored David Gilliland 38, not the current Todd Gilliland 38. Back when it was the Robert Yates racing car, sponsored by M&M's. So this is my final Throwback Weekend to celebrate a great weekend of racing. We had some amazing races, some great finishes. Finally, it's been a minute since we hit an outright, but finally, William Byron 10-1 got him back on the outright hitting train. So it was, man, what a great weekend of racing. What great races we had. Now we get to go to the All-Star weekend at North Wilkesboro. Oh, man, NASCAR has just blessed us these last couple of weeks, Rod. It's been absolutely amazing. Coming off of Kansas, amazing race. Now Darlington, amazing race. Wilkesboro looks like it's going to be a pretty good one. Man, I'm excited.
I'm excited too, although we're going to get into it in a little bit after the first break because I really want to have this conversation. I want to know from a perspective, because we kind of had it in the Discord. We had this Discord in the Discord about the merits of entertaining racing by a fan standpoint and entertaining racing from a bettor's standpoint. Because I'm telling you right now, this straddled the line between both of them. Like, as a fan, you gotta love the racing that you've seen the last couple of weeks. It's been, from what NASCAR has been trying to do, great. But also from a betting aspect, it makes things just so completely frustrating. So we'll get into all of that after the break. But yes, you've seen the title correctly, ladies and gentlemen. Cody and I are going to bring on Bob Pockrass to the show. I cannot believe that we had a chance to get him. We reached out a few weeks back, couldn't make the schedules work, but I sent my secret weapon in. And that was Cody at Kansas. I said, hey, go rub elbows with Bob, get us an interview. And guess what? He did. He locked it, brought it home. Bob's joining us. Cody, are you excited?
Yes, I'm so pumped. Bob, so we've had a few guests, obviously, from our betting circle and the betting community, which have been great. We appreciate all of them. This is our first major guest outside of that. Instead of just going and grabbing anybody, we got the god of NASCAR, basically, Bob Pockrass. So super excited to have a conversation with him. Obviously, he is the gold standard when it comes to NASCAR media, NASCAR coverage. There's nobody better than Bob. He gives everybody the information. He might not even be a real person. He's possibly just a computer cranking out NASCAR facts and rules and statistics all the time. But no, he's an amazing guy. Yeah, and I was super nice to meet him in person last week at Kansas. Got to talk to him quite a bit while I was there with my media pass, and then yeah, to get him on the show this week, it's a special treat for us for sure.
You know, I was going to say, if he's AI, he's the best AI. I don't ever want to touch AI.
It's perfect. It's already been perfected. See,
like literally, yeah, just roll Bob out and have him do what he does. But no, and listen, if you haven't already, we're talking about All-Star Weekend in North Wilkesboro. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Darlington when we go back through our bets after Bob. But yeah, we don't want to keep you from Bob all that long. We're going to give you Bob and then go after our bets from the weekend. But if you haven't watched his video yet on North Wilkesboro on how they got this thing going, like it's 9 minutes worth your time. It's definitely gives you some chills, even if you aren't really old enough to remember North Wilkesboro or wasn't a fan before it fell out of favor. Yeah, it's a good video, Cody. Good video.
Yeah, I mean, last time they raced here was 1996, right? As far as the Cup Series goes, I was 4 years old at that point, so I don't remember. I probably was watching the race, to be honest with you, on TV, but I don't remember it. So yeah, that's definitely a must-see video. Definitely go check that out. I mean, any video Bob does is amazing. He's again just top notch, top level in everything he does as far as covering the sport of NASCAR.
It's funny too because I don't know that he thought he would ever ascend to that level. Nor do I think he really even wanted it. To be honest with you, now that we've met, now that we've talked to him and had a chance to, I don't know. It's like that, the reluctant hero, right? That's what Pockrass hits me as.
Yeah, exactly. And then he gets to do all the fun. I'm glad that Fox uses him how they do too, like putting him in the bounce house. He still had like a burn on his arm from jumping in the bounce house. He had like scraped on the side of the bounce house or whatever last week, and he was saying it was a lot of work, and he kept running into that one girl, but the mom thought it was a great time. So yeah, and then obviously dropping the watermelon off the tower at Coda, and partying in the lot at Talladega there. It's I love Bob, and he plays into it so much, and yeah, he's definitely not the spotlight seeking type, but obviously he's where everyone goes for all things NASCAR news.
And we're going to have him. But we'll do that after we talk after this break, not this break, but the next break. Calm down. You're fine. But we will step away real quick to introduce you to Edge Boost. SGPN is excited to announce an exclusive early access partnership with Edge Boost, the world's first bet now, pay later Visa card. Similar to buy now, pay later programs like Affirm and Afterpay, Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest and pay back the advance over 4 equal weekly installments. That's right, 0% interest. Simply deposit funds into your account, and Edge Boost will match the deposit so you can use 2 times the fun on funds too, but yeah, 2 times the funds on any legal sports betting site. It is fun. I'll guarantee you that right now. Edge currently offers up to $2,500 in advances as you build a repayment history. My Edge Boost double down play of the day is, you'll have to wait for it. We're going to give it to you later. With this special offer, the first 500 SGPN users will start a $1,000 advance limit, and the next $2,500 users will start a $500 limit. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to sign up today. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge. Must be 21 years or older to use. Only valid in legal gambling states. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, so I told you I wanted to get to this little conversation after our break and talk to you as a NASCAR fan and as a NASCAR bettor. Which one wins in a situation like this? Now, I know you're happy this week. I'm not, right? Because my outright did not win. And in fact, my outright was lined up next to yours on the final restart, but had 0-4 the 20. The 4 had 0-4 the 24. Anyways, so
Yeah.
from a entertainment standpoint, I was entertained because that race had it all, right? The last 2 races have had it all. But from a betting aspect, I wanted to throw foam bricks at the TV. So like I couldn't balance it all day long.
Right. And this is where it gets tricky when it comes to the betting side of things, because I've been on the other side of it for most of the season, it seems like, right? I mean, the first, 4 or 5 races in a row, like we had picked the best car. We had picked the car that was leading at the end of regulation, and we just kept getting screwed and kept getting screwed. Then you have races like, Kansas a couple weeks ago, and it's like, I don't care how any of my bets did. Like, it was such a great, obviously I was there in person, so maybe that helped my case a little, but like such a good race that like, I didn't even care if I lost all of them because I was so entertained. And this weekend, it finally like got to the other side of it, right? I didn't pick the best car to win the race or the guy that was running up front all day, but those guys took each other out, and just how it happened, my guy was there to pick up the pieces. So for me, this is the gambling gods balancing things out, right? We see that, we talk about that, and it gets there. So yeah, I mean, it would be a lot nicer if it was just, if we could pick the fastest cars every week and they would actually win. But I think that at this point, you've got to go into it seeing everything we've seen the last few weeks, especially, and just be even more cautious of, look, this guy might be the best car. I mean, honestly, like if you just want to go bet on the best car every week, go bet on Kyle Larson, because he's one of the fastest cars every week, always finds his way up front, but nobody seems to know how to lose a race better than Kyle Larson does. It just seems like something always happens. He's not as good at closing out races as maybe he should be. And we saw him do it a couple of years ago, so we know he can do it, right? And obviously one of the greatest talents in all of racing in all the world. I'm not saying anything about that, but it goes to show you that like it's not always the best guy that you bet on. We saw it in the Xfinity race on Saturday. I mean, Kyle Larson, right, was the favorite, was up front a lot, but then he gets the late penalty. If that caution doesn't fall correctly, he's not going to cash that. You saw it in the truck race with William Byron. You don't always, it's not always the best car, the best driver, the fastest car. And I mean, Martin Truex, he was running away with it all day on Sunday. But after that incident at the end of the stage 2, I think it was, with Chastain, loses the track position. It's never the same when he's not able to get back up front. So had you bet on Truex, and I had mentioned him in the Discord on Sunday morning when some people were asking, is there anything else you'd add? Like, if I was gonna, it would be Truex. Well, he was up there. He was fast, right? If he'd have never fallen back, maybe he would have just run away with it.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I'm frustrated. I gave Truex as an outright anyways on the show, right? It's at plus 700. I gave Truex and I gave Harvick. Yep. Truex was the guy that was running away with it for all day long. One mistake, out. And then by some weird, wacky grace of whatever, right? My second outright, who was mired back in like 11th, and then, after all those cautions started moving up, and then next thing you know, that final restart, he's toe-to-toe with William Byron. And now, of course, he had nothing left for him. He had no tires. He had no, and I'm pretty sure he had no energy at that point, but he had nothing. He could not keep with the 24 at that point. You had fresher tires, I mean, I'm probably just as tired running up the field, but I mean, again, it just, if the 4 had anything, if the 4 had better tires, if the 4 hadn't gotten that accident, I guess it wasn't tires. It was the accident really is what kind of nailed him. If he didn't have the damage, right? If he didn't take that damage in that wreck, then we could have been singing a different story, because Harvick was a little longer odds, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I mean, again, it's just, it's frustrating because Truex was the car to beat until he wasn't. And then, it just proves that the track position was so hard to get and get back. So the fact that Byron was able to do that, man, I'm telling you right now, he's scary.
Yeah, well, and I think we just need to remember this for when we get to one of these boring races later in the season and somebody leads 95% of it and wins the race, and it's like, oh, that was such a bad race. That was such a boring race. Like, well, when we had all these good, exciting races, then we were mad that we had the chaos. So again, it's just, you got to find that balance, right? I mean, again, obviously we always preach responsible gambling. There was a whole deal on Twitter today about, manage it properly and make sure that you're not betting more than you can lose, all of those things. And that's part of why, because you could have been very right on Ross Chastain or on Kyle Larson, and then that wreck just kills it. And the Chase Briscoe thing, like, again, we were heavy on fading him, and it was the exact right call all day long, but all these late cautions, all the attrition, and that kind of flipped it at the end, because he ends up with a decent finish despite running 30-something, multiple laps down all day long. that's just kind of how it shakes out sometimes. So, yeah, as far as from a betting aspect, I think that you maybe do have to approach it as being a little more, holding back, I guess, a little bit sometimes, because you're going to have to expect that. But if you hit it, I picked William Byron to win the race. Was he the best car all day? No. Did the race, did the ticket cash? Yes. And I've been on the other side of that, like every single race, it seems like. So I'm going to take it when it happens, and just be happy with it. And that's why it's betting. And that's part of what makes it so exciting is, I think it was the JDK. Like, I really need Chastain and Larson to take each other out here. Well, then it happens. And then our bets are alive again. And just part of how it goes, and part of what makes it so exciting, part of what keeps the adrenaline up. And not only do we get an exciting race, then you have bets in the mix, and this is looking to cash and that's looking to cash. And I think that's what makes everything about not only the great racing, about betting on the race, all come together and be a big. And it's not, for me at least, it's not always I have to win all my bets to have a great day. Like, I'm just here for the sweat. I'm here to have it out there. Yeah, I want to win, obviously. I love winning, and it's great when you do win. But again, you go in expecting to lose. You come out with the wins, and it's a great day. It's fun. I had a blast this weekend. Didn't hit every bet, but hit some bets. And yeah, the sweat, I guess, is what really does it for me.
And honestly, that's the thing about it too. It's like we're not trying to breed an audience of sharps. Like, we're not trying to turn you into the perfect NASCAR betting weapon. Like, obviously we know that those guys that are out there that are trying to do that's fine. That's their brand. We're talking to you guys who like to have fun, like to throw a few down, who aren't professional gamblers, who are casual folks that just, come for some advice, come for some NASCAR talk, some engaging thought processes and all that stuff. So we've always said it time and time again, that's our audience. And I think that was alive and well in the Discord this weekend, as far as people really just getting it, right? Their bets weren't hitting, but nobody was like, oh my God, we all suck, or you suck, or everybody sucks, because, the research panned out. The results just weren't there. Like, again, it's just, and we'll talk about it afterwards. Got to step away one more time. We got to get you to Bob Pockrass. That's got to happen.
One thing too, quick, if you're new, if you've stumbled across this because of the Bob Pockrass, obviously being on here, you're going to get some extra eyes and ears. Make sure you check out the show the rest of the week. We got 5 shows a week. We're full-time NASCAR coverage. Recap show today. We'll have betting on Cup, Xfinity when they're racing. Obviously, they're not this week, but trucks, break down the All-Star. We got some DFS later in the week. We're going to have more fun guests like this and stuff moving forward. And hey, thanks for listening.
Absolutely. Yeah, we appreciate you being with us. Because we treat you like we've always been here. Like, that's the thing. Like, your family. Welcome to the family.
Exactly.
All right, we'll be back with Bob Pockrass after the break. Well, let's tell you about Shady Rays. Shady Rays is teaming up with SGPN for Shady May. Not only do you get an amazing 50% offer, but you also have a chance to win $500. Shady Rays has got you covered, as always, from the sun to the slopes, with those premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and so much more. Shady Rays have durable frames and extremely clear optics for all your outdoor adventures. Of course, that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses you get is backed by lost and broken replacements. What does that mean? Well, if you lose, break a pair, doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter when it happens, even day one, hour one, minute one, 10 years later, 100 years later, doesn't matter when they happen. They told us that they're going to send you a brand new pairs with no question asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence, because they got your back long after your purchase. If you don't love them, don't know why, but if you don't, exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. No risk when you shop with Shady Rays. This team has always got your back. And for our international listeners, Shady Rays has you covered as well, with shipping to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. Go to shadyrays.com right now. Use that promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Then take that receipt to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win the $500 Shady May contest. We are honored today to have one of our first guests. I'm not actually sure, Cody, back me up on this one. Is this our first like actual guest outside of like the
Yes,
betting
I think
community?
outside of our betting community, of course, we've had a few great guests, but Bob, we swung for the fences too. We just went straight for the big fish. Bring Bob in right away. Yeah.
We sure did. Yes, Bob.
You must not have looked at my picks lately.
Well, actually, that's actually going to come up in a few minutes because you were pretty close on your pick this weekend until the obvious things happened at the end there.
Well, for those of you who may not recognize his face or may not recognize his voice, if you're listening on, we have Bob Pockrass on his Twitter bio. It says NASCAR writer, NASCAR reporter, and Fox News. But listen, anybody who follows NASCAR knows Bob. He needs no introduction. His tweets are like scripture. But Bob, once again, thanks for joining us and hanging with us on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so listen, we just want to kick this off right off the bat. This is, of course, the gambling podcast part of it. And you've watched this sport for so many years now, and you've seen it go through so many changes. What, since the inclusion of gambling into the NASCAR ecosystem, right? What have you seen has gambling provided to the sport, if anything, really?
I think it certainly has provided some additional interest. I still think NASCAR is trying to figure out where it fits in that space, right? I think the first thing NASCAR needed to do was set rules and set guidelines for its teams and its drivers, and they're still kind of working through what they can do. Denny Hamlin was talking about the other day how he can't give all of his picks for the quote unquote bracket challenge because NASCAR felt like that would be giving out too much maybe inside information. So if you notice on his podcast, he asks his co-host, what are your picks? He doesn't give his picks. So they're still kind of working through that, what do they need to do for to make sure that there's integrity in the sport. And I think for NASCAR, that's really, look, every sport has officials, but I don't know that every sport has a rule book like NASCAR's and where everything is, there's just so many judgment calls and so many things left up to interpretation. And so I think that's, just the other day, right at Talladega, was it where they changed the finishing order, right? About an hour after the race, after they looked at more video, and that caused a lot of dispute because sometimes some sites pay out right once the unofficial results come, 20 minutes or so after a race. Others wait, a little bit. Others wait until after inspection. And so you have all these different ways of kind of looking at results. And even NASCAR's rule book says, hey, they can change the results at any time they want. So I think all of that is still kind of where they go. And I think the biggest challenge, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but their biggest challenge moving ahead is that NASCAR has a wealth of data that other sports don't have, fastest lap, fastest pit stop, fastest, most green flag passes. And you can't figure that out by watching television, right? If it's football and you have a quarterback and you want to bet on how many interceptions that quarterback's going to have, you can see that. But NASCAR owns all of this data, and the challenge for them now is what do they do with this data? Who do they sell this data to? And what type of bets will resonate with the public using that data? And to me, that's still their biggest challenge. It's where they can potentially make the most money, but they haven't really been able to hit that sweet spot yet with it.
Yeah, and so that's the thing about it too, when it's so new to everybody, and it's so new, especially as more states adopt legalized gambling, it's going to be and we've seen it in F1. Cody and I also do an F1 gambling podcast where F1 has a variety of bets now to cover everything from manufacturers to fastest pit stops, like you had just said, to all sorts of things. So is this something, do you think NASCAR is trying to incorporate more as they learn more, or how far off are we from having bets like that?
They'd be stupid not to, right? How far off? I don't know. I think they're still kind of working through that space. And then the other space that I don't know what F1 has, but the question is, what can you have as far as at track betting and at track, on your app? And if you're there on site, do you have the service good enough to where you could potentially bet on something that's occurring, that's going to be occurring right in front of you in over the next stage or two. So, and again, NASCAR has some unique challenges in that space, in the sense of that their venues aren't used more than a couple of days a year for big crowds, and it's very difficult for them. And I would guess, debatable whether it's cost effective or not to put in enough, Wi-Fi capability to be able to do stuff like that.
Cody?
Yeah, I think that going back to your changing the official results, you should have seen the betting space when Denny Hamlin got his win taken away last year. That really changed up some things. But yeah, I think that it's great that NASCAR seems to be embracing the gambling side of things, as far as they've got some official partners. MGM, I think Barstool is an official partner. WinBet, I believe, as well. And then obviously we've seen on some cars, right? The Richard Childress cars run the BetMGM sponsorship sometimes. So I think it's great to see that they seem to be embracing it. Obviously, it's becoming legal more places. I was at Kansas Speedway last week, and I was placing live bets from right there inside the track during the race based on what I could see out there. And I thought that was a great experience and a way for things to keep going forward as far as NASCAR betting goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you can still win Clint Boyer's money on during our telecast. Not that
right.
That's not really a bet per se, because you're not putting money into it. But we also have Fox Bet, and there's a lot of, and the question is, what type of bets will resonate with fans? I mean, when you go to Vegas, you'll often have some, like kind of head-to-head matchups and that type of thing for the Vegas race specifically. The question is, can you have that every week depending on where you're at?
Yeah,
go ahead, Cody.
I think it's great that you guys do you guys give the odds in the pre-race and stuff. And I think even sometimes during the race, what they were before the race. I think that's great. Maybe Fox can push the envelope a little bit and get some live odds during the race and talk about, this guy, Kyle Larson just got a speeding penalty. Now he's at the back. This is where his live odds are at. Maybe we'll see that from Fox someday.
I do love too when the announcers they're learning the vernacular as they go along too. A lot of them aren't hardcore gamblers, or maybe they weren't necessarily hip on the lingo up until now, and you hear them trying to sprinkle in every once in a while, learning as they go. I always find that to be fun. All right, so gambling aside, listen, we've got a man, like I said, who with a wealth of knowledge here, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about North Wilkesboro coming up, because we know you're about to jump on a plane and head out there for All-Star Weekend. What a special weekend. We come from Throwback Weekend, right? Now we go to a throwback track. Just talk us through what we're about to experience, because we're going to set up this as a betting aspect in the coming episodes. But what has it been like to watch? I watched your video, by the way, and I needed that video. I'm 47 years old, but I still needed that video. So what was it like to get prepared for North Wilkesboro?
Well, it's, going up there last week for the open house, and, it's just amazing to see the facility, and it doesn't look like a facility where NASCAR hasn't raced since 1996. But, maybe from a betting standpoint, or, what competitors will talk about is, they did a tire test there about 6 weeks ago, and now you go to the track and they've patched parts of the front stretch in the middle. They've patched it with asphalt, the kind of the inside of turns 1 and 2 and turns 3 and 4. And not that they'll run down there too much, but you hear drivers talking about they're going to be trying to find, do you go on the old asphalt that's going to wear your tires, or do you find these patches and have less tire wear? Which, again, that those patches, a lot of those patches weren't there for the test 6 weeks ago. So it kind of throws another wrinkle into this. This is a race where, normally on my Mondays I'm watching the previous race or 2 races from the track the year before, and here I have free time to do this podcast because there's no track to watch. Right? I'm not going to go back to 1996 and watch Jeff Gordon win. That's not going to tell me anything. So it's everybody kind of wonders what's going to happen in this race. And, the one unique aspect about this race is that after lap 100, teams will only have one set of sticker tires. And so the question is, when will they put those on? And talking to some people, I think there's some who wish that there were two sets of sticker tires after lap 100, because then you might have some who would try to do it on changing tires only once, and others who might try and say, okay, we're going to lose it. We're not running well. We'll lose a couple laps, putting on the second set of stickers and see if we can make up those laps based on having fresher tires. So there's going to be there still will be some strategy come into play. And I think people just, it's just a really hard one to predict. And I think that's kind of what makes it great. It's going to be NASCAR's Field of Dreams moment and their Winter Classic moment, all I think rolled into one.
Yeah, we know that you make most of NASCAR's rules anyways, so maybe you can suggest throwing that extra set of tires in there. But I was wondering too, what track do you think this might be most comparable to? I mean, obviously it's a shorter track, it's got a little banking, but expected high tire wear. Do you think it'll be similar to any other tracks on the circuit now as far as how the racing might look?
It's a great question. You're gonna have the tire wear of Darlington with a track that's maybe most comparable to Richmond, but without that tire wear. So it's gonna. I think it'll race like a short track. You're just gonna have more fall off. I think track position still will be key. I still think it could be difficult to pass unless you have fresher tires, and then it's going to be easy to pass, and then it's just a matter of navigating traffic. And and then again, you're talking about a race with probably 22 cars in it, so many fewer than what you'd have on track at a normal event.
Well, and not to mention, this is like a Coney Island type roller coaster where you've got dips and elevation changes, almost like a road course, but on a short track. So I feel like we're in for one hell of a show. And to be honest with you, I'd be hard pressed with what we've seen so far this season too. Like, making these betting picks is not going to be easy this week at all, right?
No, it's not. And it's, the only people will be sweating more than those making the bets, I think, are the crew chiefs trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah. Speaking of making picks, so obviously you post your picks every week on Twitter, right? And you had Chastain this past weekend, Larson, Truex, Byron, Blaney up there. And you were pretty good calls on a lot of those guys. Obviously, Chastain, Truex led for a good portion of the race. Larson was up there as well. Byron ends up winning. What goes into your process as far as who you decide to make for your picks for the week?
Yeah, so I usually do them the night before and try to post them at 8 a.m. each. I try to post them on 8 a.m. on race day, mainly for your benefit. Actually, I'm going to admit, it's a little bit selfish. I figure if people know my picks are coming out at 8 a.m., they're not going to be asking for me the day before. They're not going to be asking me at 10 o'clock. They know that they come out at 8 a.m. And it's really to kind of, fulfill the gambling and fantasy niche, and so that's why I try to do it at the same time every week so that people know when to look. And again, maybe hopefully that keeps them from asking me what my picks are, because they know when they're coming out. But try to do them the night before. If for a cup race, usually you've had practice and qualifying, I'll look at starting position. I'll then depending on the track, look at 10 lap average, 20 lap average, 30 lap average rank, see where they fit. And then I'll go and take a look at where they finished in previous years. We get a lot of stats on the TV side. So I get a piece of paper that pretty much has a little bit on each driver, and I can go through that pretty quickly and see where they finished in the last 3 or 4, probably the last 10 races right away at a racetrack. So, obviously with next gen, you're not going back all that far to look, but for Xfinity and Truck, you do, and doing those races, and sometimes I do it on field. Look, the guys on Chastain's crew asked me, they're like, well, we like your pick. I said, well, I figured an angry Chastain, guy who just decked somebody the week before, maybe he'll win the race. So that might play just a little bit into the picks. I do try, I am a little bit cognizant of, hey, if you try to, if the Fords aren't good, maybe look and see who might be the best Ford. And even I thought it might be Blaney, although Harvick probably was maybe a little bit better there yesterday. But as sometimes I try to spread the wealth a little bit too on these picks, just so that's not the same people every time. I mean, gosh, the 1 year Larson won 10 races. If you picked him every week, you'd be you'd be over 25%, right? That's pretty good average there in NASCAR.
Yeah, you feel our pain though, right? Talking about the same guys every single week. It's like at some point you just tell the people, listen, this is how they run. I mean, if you don't want to hear about the same drivers every week, then we got to get better bets on the books to talk about other guys.
Yeah. Yep. And look, you never, the best you can do is look at what they're doing in recently. Right. I mean, I think that's the biggest key. And, and then maybe just kind of take a look and see, hey, is there somebody who's unexpected or who hasn't maybe been running well, but they're at maybe either one of their better tracks, or there might be, a reason why you just might think that they would do well there. And then you also think about, just there are certain drivers, right, that you would say a 400-mile race might be better for them than a 500-mile race, right? That there are certain drivers who if they're going 500 miles, just are going to mess up, or their pit crew's going to mess up over 500 miles. But maybe in 400 miles, you feel a little bit better for them. I'd say that happens more maybe even on the Xfinity and truck side. A shorter race, there's certain drivers that it just kind of fits into their wheelhouse.
Okay, but you just said something that I want everybody out there to this is a guy who's seen more NASCAR races than probably the world. He just said momentum is a thing. I'm just going to rest my case. Bob, you don't know. I'm sorry. It's just a thing with us. We got called out once that they said that momentum doesn't necessarily carry a lot of weight when it comes to betting. And so I just want everybody to know that Bob just said that, yes, momentum is a thing.
We're big on the momentum train. I do think that recent performance can translate a lot to how things are kind of going for a driver, for a team overall. And so I'm glad to hear that you back us up on that.
Well, and when you talk about momentum, it's more confidence, right? And confidence in your NASCAR's all about, or a lot about, driver having a confidence that their crew chief is going to make the changes, and the crew chief having confidence that their driver is giving them the feedback they need. And when you're running well, you have that confidence in each other. When you're not running well, you don't have that confidence, and it can lead, to questions and maybe not the decisions that are always the best. So that's where I think momentum plays a role, is just in that driver crew chief communication and trust. And I think you saw it in Truex, where the team didn't tell him, hey, you're on old tires, and that's never going to happen again, right? Like he's going to want to know that, they kind of had that beef and they moved on, and now you look and, man, they still might bicker a little bit on the radio, but they have that comfort with each other that I think is important.
Yeah, I love it too. All right, listen, I know we got to get you on the plane to North Wilkesboro. You are a very wanted man. But before we wrap things up, listen, I'm curious, like I said, as a man who's seen so much NASCAR, I'm over here jealous of how much NASCAR you've gotten to watch in your life. Is there a moment, and obviously probably know it off the top of your head, on the track that you remember above all else? Is there that one moment that made you realize that you are in the right place as far as being in NASCAR?
Well, I would say, like, if you talk about like the moment that's like the most memorable moment, there's two that come to mind. First, Dale Jr.'s win at Daytona in 2001 in July. I mean, you can't, script that moment, the electricity. I'm walking down pit road after that race, and that place is, that was a spiritual experience for a lot of people. And so like that that moment you always remember. And then the other I would say would be, when Tony Stewart comes back and wins the championship over Carl Edwards, and that epic comeback. That's one of those that you won't forget as well.
Again, just would love to bit. Cody,
Yeah,
anything?
those are two really good ones. I don't want to put you on the spot too much. I know you haven't done all your research and stuff, but early pick. Can we get an early pick, or do we have to wait till Sunday?
An early pick for the All-Star race. I'm gonna go with Willie B. He hasn't won the All-Star race before. I think Rudy is a very strong crew chief. They have a little bit of momentum. You want me to say that? Does that help you guys out?
Yes, thank you.
But but you're also talking about somebody who he won Phoenix, right? So, and I think I think he'll be a driver who will be able to kind of take care of his tires and be able to navigate this track and not. And I think he won't, necessarily even overthink it. He'll let Rudy do the thinking for him.
See, Bob said he wasn't going to weigh in the last race of this race, but at this track, but I think he did watch that 96 race and the 24 car win and taking that into account, right?
Yeah, I think that's I didn't even think about that, but I think it's more about what's going on today than what was going on in 1996. No, Jeff Gordon is like driving the pace car. He ain't driving driving the 24 car.
Yeah, no, it's a great pick. I mean, he's hard to pick against right now. Obviously, he's had a great season, 3 wins at this point. So, can't blame you for making that pick.
Well, we'll dig in deeper into our research and we'll find out. And then, of course, be sure to follow Bob and get his official pick, which could be the same. And we broke it here on the show first, but let him dig into the research. Let him figure out all that stuff. Don't at him yet for his pick. Just don't do it.
I can change my mind since I get to see practice.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
On Friday and heat races on Saturday. So
yeah, we're kind of locked in. We're on Tuesday. We have what we have, and that's about it. You got to follow our Discord if you want the official picks. But all right, Bob, we're going to go ahead and let you go because, like I said, we know we got to get you out to North Wilkesboro. We can't keep the people from there. Bob Pockrass, let everybody who isn't, which is probably like 1 or 2 people out there listening, follow you and your work on social media.
Yeah, follow me at Bob Pockrass on both Twitter and Instagram, or the Fox Sports app or website, foxsports.com/NASCAR.
You will not regret the follow.
Yeah, click the bell next to him and you'll have all the NASCAR news you need because he gives it all to us.
Indeed. Bob Pockrass, everybody, a pleasure. And we'll be back with more on North Wilkesboro after the break.
Thanks, Bob.
To those of you who have been watching and continue to watch on YouTube, we thank you so much for doing so. We love to have all of this visual stimulation with the voices that you've come to know and love. The show's been growing. You get to see Bob Pockrass talk. That's the amazing thing about it. So much good stuff. You also get to see the little flubs when I accidentally push the wrong cue and bring in the wrong thing. So you get to laugh at me for that, but that's fine. We want you to continue to see all the good and the bad of what we do here. Keep supporting, keep doing everything you need to do to make this this channel grow and grow with us, and the show to grow with us as well.
Hey, everybody. If you play fantasy football, especially in auction leagues,
or you're a whiskey fan.
Yes, exactly. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast Fantasy Football Channel show, Old Fashioned Football.
Coming to you every Tuesday morning. Give us a listen. We'll bring you the latest fantasy football data, including
the injury report,
studs and duds,
waiver wire targets,
and suggested fab.
Market movers. After all, we are the Marks.
He is my hubby.
And she's J Mark's wifey.
And we're bringing all this to you while drinking an old fashioned and giving you our honest review of a different whiskey every week.
All that and more. Hop on over, give us a listen, come for the football, stay for the whiskey.
This ad's almost done.
Going once, going twice.
Sold.
See now, Cody, I feel like what we did was, I think we served the Thanksgiving main course before all of the so now it's like, people are already ready to go and sleep on the couch after the tryptophan sets in, and the rest of our show is just going to be, half listened to.
Well, hopefully that's not the case. But yeah, we get to talk through some bets now and see where we went right, see where we went wrong.
Indeed.
So,
But
fun
first
time.
and foremost, though, thanks to Bob. That was, I mean, he's got such tight windows to work through anyways. So the fact that we got him on one was amazing. And two, that he decided to expand his little window out there for us to be able to kind of pick his brain a little bit. I could talk to that guy all day.
Yeah, that's no doubt about it. I mean, again, he is the gold standard when it comes to NASCAR media, and for him to take any time to speak with, just a small little podcast like us, it's we appreciate it so much. So thank you, Bob. It was great to talk to you. Hopefully we can have him on again another time.
I think that's going to be humanly possible. So, all right, let's start to become accountable like we always are for this weekend. And we start, of course, with the Cup Series because it's the freshest one on our mind. And for all that this race had one guy lead 137 laps. Hold on, what was his final tally? 145 laps. Martin Truex Jr. was ahead 145 laps in this race. There was still a lot going on, and a lot of that came in just the last part of the race. I'm so frustrated, Cody, and we'll get to that in a second. But if we're just going to wrap this race up, you won, I lost. Let's go home, because that's what ended up happening in this one. It was just so frustrating.
Yeah, and I mean, it is crazy that I mean, there was a good portion of this race early on where Truex was kind of just running away with it, and it wasn't that exciting as far as like, I mean, there wasn't a ton of action going on, but how things can change, right? So yeah, it's again, we kind of touched on it already, but if it turned out in your favor, props to you. If it didn't, it didn't. And I think that my first ones up here are part of that. Like, I had AJ Allmendinger over Chase Briscoe -105, and Austin Dillon over Chase Briscoe -125. Both of these were smash hammer bets, and they were perfectly correct. It was not even close. Briscoe was horrible all day. Again, qualified 4 spots in front of BJ McLeod. I think BJ was in the car this week. Yes. And he was multiple laps down in, I think, 33rd, 32nd, a majority of the day. Obviously, the carnage and chaos at the end. He ends up getting some laps back, ends up with a 17th place finish, which they probably should have given him the trophy, because for that car on an intermediate track, man, what a finish. And so I think that, I mean, we're just going to keep hammering this going forward. Anytime we get to an intermediate sized track, it's not going to be this weekend at North Wilkesboro, obviously, but going forward, intermediate tracks in the future, Coke 600 is coming up, intermediate track, Briscoe is going to be slow. They continue to be slow. Again, just kind of on the bad side of these. Dillon had a good car all day, got caught up in one of those wrecks, bad finish. Allmendinger was ahead of Briscoe, rather, for most of the race. I mean, running position wise, again, I didn't think Allmendinger was going to be that great either, but I figured he could be a little bit ahead of him. He was all day, but ends up just getting on the wrong side at the end of that. But I would place both of these bets again, because I don't think that they were even close. And Briscoe continues to show how absolutely horrendous that 14 program is on these bigger tracks.
Yeah, again, it was a non-factor. It was pretty much a non-factor all day long. And because we got all of the chaos that we did at the end, it made him able to sort of capitalize on it. And all you got to do is miss the big one in Darlington, and you're good, right? That one collected a lot of good cars.
Multiple, but there was 2 big ones in that race and one on Saturday. So crazy weekend for that. We were talking to Bob a little bit about other options to bet. I wish we could get an over-under on how many laps until Chase Briscoe gets lapped on speed alone, because I would take the under on that most of the time on these intermediate tracks.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. All right, my first bet was Logano as a top 5 car. That wasn't the case for better part of the day, but he found his way up into the top 5 toward the end of that race. And then some bitch, he got collected, and that just killed it for us. We didn't see the 22 after that. It was just, I was so frustrated. That was it, man. That was what really pissed me off, because Logano did the William Byron thing where he just fought his way up. He wasn't in the mix for any part of that day. Like, he was literally hanging around and trying to break out of hell, the top 20. Honestly, like he barely could crack the top 20, and then worked on it. Pit strategies, pit calls, cautions. Next thing you know, 22 is up there and like running in the top 5. And I thought, man, if the race stays the way it is now, I got a shot to crack this. This is pretty awesome, right? And at plus 140, I thought that was a pretty solid deal. He won the race last year, and they kept reminding us of that. And, he just found himself up there and found himself away. And then the entertaining chaos set in, and Joey Logano did not finish as a top 5 car. In fact, he didn't even finish in the top 20.
18th, I think.
18th. Yeah, there it is. 18th. He finished 18th.
As bad as Ford was all weekend, can you believe 5 Fords in the top 10, 6 in the top 11? Insane. Shout out to Harrison Burton finishing. If you know nothing else about this race, Harrison Burton finished 6th. So that should probably give, if you just came up to me and you said, hey, they raced at Darlington this weekend, Harrison Burton finished 6th, I'm going to assume there was some massive crashes, which was the case.
I'm assuming the earth swallowed all the other cars whole.
No, were people not able to start this race? I don't know what happened. But next up for me, I had Austin Dillon. This one was kind of juiced up, minus 150 over Ricky Stenhouse. Stenhouse comes out, qualifies quickly, and was running very good all day long. Obviously, we already talked about Dillon getting in the wreck, but I don't feel like this one was that out of a bet. I mean, Stenhouse ended up being a lot better than I expected. So props to him again. We've talked about this 47 bunch all season. Like that Daytona 500 win changed things for this team for sure. So that's going to be something to keep in mind as we continue to go forward. But Dillon was, again, having a good day. Just wrong place, wrong time. I think he was caught up in that one of the big ones where Eric Jones's tire fell off, maybe. Yeah. But rough day for that one.
Yeah, that was the one where Eric Jones lost the entire tire and carried everybody with him. Yeah, Stenhouse. Listen, I picked him for DFS, and I called him to be sneaky. But what I didn't,
it was hard to qualifying third. It was hard to even play him then.
That's what I didn't expect. Yep. Like if you would have qualified 13th and finished 10th, or finished 13th, even, to be honest with you, with no. Right. That would have still done well. But yeah, to have him third drop to 13th, that kind of sucked for DFS.
Yep.
And for betting purposes too.
But you were on the right track as far as him being good this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of what happens. All right. Well, my next one was Truex over Byron. Next. So pissed off. This one had legs all damn day. And for 145 laps, nobody was touching Martin Truex Jr. And unfortunately, once he lost that clean air, once he got into traffic, once that pit stop happened, it just and then pit strategy was so hard to come by in this race anyways, because you're not undercutting anybody with any efficiency. You're not staying out and hoping for a caution with any efficiency. Like, it just wasn't going to happen the way the race was shaking out. So once Truex got kind of punted from the front, that was sayonara. But he still had an opportunity at the end again. Like, he found his way back up around the front. What was he in 4th place? Or he was on the inside when when the Chastain and Larson thing happened.
He
got collected. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you had the right call here. I mean, Truex was obviously, I think, the best car on the day. Once he lost the track position and the clean air, obviously, things got a little hurt, like we talked about. By the way, on the DFS, speaking of the DFS show, we did talk about fading Eric Jones, which ended up being a good thing, obviously, as he lost his tire. He recovered for a decent finish, but I did want to point that out. I had Austin Dillon top 10 at plus 240. I think this one had legs. I think that if he could have survived chaos, we could have seen a different story. And then I had Ty Gibbs plus 225 for the top 10. Again, a 16th place finish for him. Kind of exactly what you expected, right? He finished 15th in the fall, just kind of hoping for maybe a few better finishing positions. I think he did get caught up in, who didn't get caught up in one of those 2 wrecks, right? Very few cars that weren't. I think they said at one point it'd be easier to tell you which cars weren't involved in the last wreck than which cars were. But again, just didn't quite shake out. I feel like neither of these were necessarily bad bets. Again, the Dillon thing, the accident, really, you don't know how his day would have ended otherwise. And Gibbs, again, another solid run from him, a 16th place finish. I think he's going to be a guy to just continue to watch on this type of bet.
Yeah, I don't know. I wished better for Gibbs. I felt like he got the raw end of a deal as well, and couldn't show us exactly how much speed he had. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. He'll catch up to it. All right, my next one actually cashed. And it didn't look like it was good. This was the opposite of everything that just happened.
Yeah.
Like this was being on the receiving end of the chaos.
See, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it just, you happen to be you make even the wrong pick or not, or the pick that, well, I guess really this was the right pick because we told you exactly what was going to happen with Chaz. That, if nothing else, we told you exactly what was going to happen with this driver. I'll let you get to your bet.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had Reddick over Chastain, and we said it too. We said his aggressive driving style on this track is not going to bode well because he's going to push it at the wrong spot.
We told you he was going to wreck. We said he is going to wreck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sure enough, he wrecks, and Tyler Reddick ends up beating him by. Tyler Reddick finished in, I just had it right here, 22nd position. And Tyler Reddick was a terrible car all day long. He started 9th, and that was it. That was the last time you saw that 45.
Never heard from him all day.
Exactly, with any sort of, and they would always bring it up. They were like, oh, well, Tyler Reddick's supposed to be, and we actually thought Toyota was going to much better than they were at this track. It was Fords and Chevys that really carried the day instead of, and the Toyotas just sort of fell back. Of course, we know
Truex out front, but otherwise it was all Chevys.
Yeah.
Until all the Fords were at the back and survived the chaos.
Exactly. But Chastain led 93 laps in this. Obviously, we know he got caught up with the 5 and dropped like a rock after that. So, yeah, I mean, he finished, his official finishing position was 29th. So we got this one. Wasn't pretty, but it makes up for the fact that the first two got kind of taken away from us by the same sort of wreck.
Yeah, again, this is just being on the right side of it. And I mean, but the process was there. We didn't necessarily think Reddick would be as bad as he was, but we didn't think he would be the greatest car out there either. It was just likely he's going to survive, and Chastain is not. I don't know if you heard Justin Marks' comments on SiriusXM today, but it sounds to me like he received some phone calls. My guess is from Chevrolet specifically that said, this needs to stop. And the way that his voice kind of changed as he was talking, and the way that he answered some of the questions and basically said there are some things that need to change, and we had some very hard conversations today. I'm guessing that's hard conversations with Chevrolet to him and maybe him to Ross. Obviously, they love Ross. They believe in his talent, as well they should. But, man, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of Ross we get going forward, and if he just starts running in 10th every week to make a point and not be over aggressive, or how this kind of shakes out. It's going to be very interesting.
The tightrope you walk in this situation has to be probably the most stressful that you would ever have, because on the one hand, you never want to tell a driver to not be aggressive. Like
Right.
That's race car driving. That's how you win. You don't win by letting everybody pass you every week, right? You win by making assertive moves. But then there's the way of doing it that's not going to piss off and cause a civil war in Chevy, right? I mean, we're going to see this up on the big screen, the Chevy Civil War. It's like the Avengers, right? You'll see Hendrick Motorsports on one side, and then Trackhouse and RCR and not RCR. RCR.
RCR,
like
yep.
all of those guys on the other end of it, right? So it's like, the Hulk and Ant-Man smashing up against each other. That's what it's going to be.
And when it gets to the point where Rick Hendrick is starting to make comments about it, Chevrolet, I mean, I guarantee there was a phone call from Rick to Chevrolet that said, look, buddy, I've sold how many of your cars over the years? I've won you more races than anybody could ever try to win in the Cup Series with Chevrolet. He's been loyal the whole time to Chevrolet. He's got 1 billion dealerships. I'm sure the HendrickCars.com has ties in with Chevrolet and everything. So if he says something, people listen. So be interesting to kind of see how that is going forward. Next up for me was the paint scheme bet of the week. Chase Elliott had to find ways to bet on my favorite paint scheme. Top 10, minus 130. I said this was ridiculous and should not have been anywhere near this low. I hammered this one hard. And it turned out in the end, his day was up and down, I guess, to say the least. He wasn't necessarily top 10 in either stage. Just kind of hung around all day. Questionable whether he was involved in the last accident. I know there's been some back and forth on that, but hey, again, a cash is a cash. I don't think that you can give that good of a car, one of the top 3 Hendrick cars, or really any of the Hendrick cars once Bowman's back for sure. That type of car at only minus 130 to finish in the top 10. Again, that's only 26 other drivers they have to beat. That was crazy value. And as long as he didn't wreck out, which he didn't, it was likely going to cash. So it did cash. Also had him a 14-1 alive at the end, right? He ends up with a nice solid finish. We picked first, second, and third place in this one, Rod. So pretty solid day on our picks finally. We hit second and third like we have been doing all season, but we actually got the winner this time too.
It's amazing how like we really had this whole scene. We had the whole thing circled. We had everybody where they were supposed to be. And then shit kept wrecking. So it was like, come on now. All right. Well, my other two, I had Gibbs as the winner of Group F. And this one actually was doing well, except for Brad Keselowski. He was the one outlier. Like Daniel Suarez, obviously, started, high, but then fell off, obviously. But then it was Brad Keselowski that kept skulking around and actually came up with a really good finish in 4th place in this. Obviously, excuse me, Ty Gibbs did not get that high. But Gibbs did beat Suarez, didn't beat Buescher, though. Buescher got him by, what was it? How many? Actually, Buescher found his way up to the.
Yeah, another solid day by RFK. 4th place by Brad, 10th by Buescher. Yeah, great day for RFK again.
Yeah, but Buescher didn't have that good of a day either. Buescher found his way to a 10th place finish because of all of the chaos. And then, of course, I had Elliott, Logano, and Hamlin all as a top 5 car. None of those. Well, Elliott was a 3rd place car, but boy, what Hamlin? You want to talk about?
Well, I mean, that was my first bet to win, plus 650. Out to lunch all day. Oh, hangover from the win last week. I don't know, but he did say on his podcast, Actions Detrimental, this week, that he thinks there was a problem with the car that they're looking into more. So I don't know what that means, or if that's just him trying to explain away why he was dog shit all day. Could be either. But yeah, very interesting that he sucks. So I gave him out, but also, of course, gave out William Byron 10-1. Should have probably won this race last season. Again, got dumped at the end by Logano. He's been hot this season. I talked a couple weeks ago about fading him. I very quickly turned my tune on that. Maybe he's not going to go away. First driver to 3 wins this season. Man, that would have been an interesting bet going into the season, right? First driver to 3 wins. How far down the list would you have had to go before you got to William Byron? I know we saw 2 quick wins out of the gate last season, but I didn't expect for him to be this good. Beating his teammates there. Obviously, a couple of them have missed a few races, but still beating Kyle Larson there, beating the JGR guys there. Even guys like Kyle Busch, I would have probably picked over Byron to get to the 3 wins first. So shout out to Byron. Cashes the 10-1. Yeah, we'll just, hey, it wasn't the most pretty way to get there, but cash is a cash, and we'll take it any way we get.
Cody, is he locked into the playoffs, do you think? Is that...
He is. Hold on, let me check with the NASCAR interns who don't actually know, but he is. I mean, again, even now, it'd be hard to say he's locked in, because if he misses a race, and he doesn't get a waiver. But yes, he's locked in. Now is when you can say, once they get to 2 wins, really they're locked in, because you're not going to have 16 different drivers with 2 wins. So you're good once you get to 2, as long as you start the rest of the regular season races, of course. But he is triple locked in, I guess you could say now.
I would think so. All right, and then of course I had Truex at 7-1. Whatever. And then
that was such a good call by you too. Like,
I know
he was so fucking good.
What do you do?
That's
I mean, you don't.
How the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah. I picked the fastest car. I picked the guy that should have won.
Well, we couldn't stop picking the fastest car like we've been doing every week, and then not cashing.
So here's when I knew we were sunk, though, or at least I was sunk. When he got out and started leading 100 laps, I was like, "Oh, this is not going to end well."
Yeah, it's always It's always I've done that before. I think that was actually the Xfinity race when number 11, again, still not saying his name. When I had like all 4 of my picks and half of them were like 50 to 1 or more, and they were in the top 5, I go, there's no way any of these cash. And then number 11 wrecked all of them.
Yeah. Well, and we'll definitely get there. Of course, I had Harvick at 14 to 1 to win that race. And he was persona non grata up until the very end. And just again, had nothing to drag race William Byron with. So, the fact that he even made himself in the top row after taking all that damage, kudos to him. And for a second there, I thought another finish outside of the top 10. That's got to suck for Kevin. He comes out and he gets second. Like, go Kevin Harvick. But that's consistency.
Harvick doing Harvick things, right? The closer, he just finds a way. Not always the prettiest, but he finds a way to get there. I was trying to do it quickly. His odds. Oh, we got some fun odds this week. There's All-Star Open odds. Oh, I like this. But anyways, Kevin Harvick 10 to 1 All-Star race. Might be an early one to look at. Again, we'll have to dig into whatever we can dig into. Not a ton we can dig into here, but
watch the 1996.
Gonna be in the 29 car. Just saying.
Ooh, I know it's gonna be so beautiful.
Yes, it is.
All right, well that puts a lid on the Cup race. Although hold on, I did want to take a quick look before we go away, because I just there were 8 cautions for 47 laps. 47 laps. That's just, but 19 lead changes.
2 of those wrecks were pretty large. So
yeah, they were driving around for a while.
Click off some laps for you.
And the winning margin was only 0.781 seconds, believe it or not, in that race. It seemed like it was a lot farther, but
it was overtime too. So
yep. So all right, let's move over to the truck race, where it was the Buckle Up South Carolina 200. This one went 158 laps of the 147 schedule. Lots of overtime in this one. 8 cautions for 37 laps, 10 lead changes. Christian Eckes, your winner, much to the world's chagrin, but cementing himself and pretty much locking himself into the playoffs.
Again, multiple wins locked in. Although, I mean, really, you get 1 win in the Truck Series, you're pretty close to locked in, because
for sure
they don't necessarily get as many winners. But I mean, I will point out William Byron, again, he was plus 250 to win this race or something. We said we were going to stay off of him. Had chances where it looked like maybe he would get the win. But ultimately doesn't. And that's why you can't always just take the favorite, or when they are the favorite like that, you still have to sprinkle some of these other guys, because obviously Eckes gets it done. Unfortunately, neither of us had him to win. But I'll go through my first couple of bets here since we're going a little long. But I had Bubba over Nick Sanchez at plus 100, and this one ended up cashing. And really, this was another one where I said that I was taking the veteran over the younger guy, right? And Sanchez, much like Chastain, looked very good, looked very fast like he has all season, but made the mistake late, ends up not getting the good finish. Getting plus money on that one, I feel like was a pretty good bet. Had Zane Smith over Ross Chastain. Rod. This one was cashing a majority of the day. And then we got these overtime starts, and Chastain somehow works his way up to 13th, a place he never was anywhere close to sniffing. Again, this was the aggressive racing style. Zane did not look good all day. I will say that. I knew his finishes hadn't been great here before. Expected him to be a little better, so I don't know. But I still have no problem fading Ross Chastain in the Truck Series, because he again showed that truck wasn't that great. He just, circumstances worked out in his favor at the end to get up to 13th, but even that, you would expect more out of a Cup Series guy in that truck.
Yeah, I mean, that 41 truck just looked not good all day long, so kudos. But I mean, the 38 didn't look any better at all either. I just could not believe that he couldn't even find his way anywhere to the front. Zane Smith, rough day. It's one he wants to forget for sure. I had Sanchez over Eckes. We know how that ended up.
Tried to tell you, Rob.
I know you did, and you were right, and you were absolutely right. And then I had Grant Enfinger over Ty Majeski. This
Boy,
one,
it's nice when that cashes half a lap into the race.
yeah, this one was so fantastic. This one, there was no sweat. There was zero sweat. Majeski ends up going out of the race early. We're talking really.
He had power steering issues on literal lap
That's what it was.
2 in the race. I mean, lap 2, he already could tell he had a problem. I think he pulled it off and tried to fix it, and then eventually just pulled out because.
His arms.
But it was, I mean, from the literal start, just had a problem right away. And again, it was just as long as Enfinger didn't crash out and Majeski limps around to pass him, this was going to be an easy cash. So, props to you on that. I had Parker Kligerman over Chase Purdy. And this one ended up being really close. Kligerman has had a really good history here, but again, mechanical issues get Parker Kligerman yet again. He is just snake bitten this season, 34th, but he only finished 2 spots worse than Purdy. Purdy, young, inexperienced. This track was going to bite him. I was right on that part of it. Kligerman's oil just couldn't hold on a little bit longer. Unfortunately, did not cash that. Also had Kligerman top 5. You know how that went. Matt Crafton top 5 plus the Kligerman one was plus 400, by the way, on the top 5. Crafton was plus 450 for the top 5. We actually both had this bet. And really, there was not a ton from Crafton all day. He ends up in 12th, and that's about where he ran all day. And yeah, didn't quite have that top 5 upside that we were hoping for.
Yeah, no, Crafton battled around the back most of the time, too. He started 19th and just had nothing for the front of the field. Were it not for a bunch of those cautions, he probably wouldn't have found his way up there anyways. He was one of the guys that was benefiting most from the choose rule. So, I mean, he was flirting with that, but never a top 5. I had Zane Smith over William Byron. Obviously, that did not help. And then, of course, Crafton as a top 5. Boy, and I tell you what, man, Zane Smith, William Byron was good, but I just thought Zane Smith was going to be better. That was my biggest disappointment of the week.
Yeah, it was very, very disappointing. I still don't think this was a bad bet. I think if you can ever get what should be the second best truck out there, the second best driver, maybe even for the series, I would say out there at plus 160 just to beat one other guy. Byron could have easily been one of those guys in the wall, wrecked out. Smith didn't have to have a good day to cash that. So I don't think that was a bad bet necessarily. I threw out a bunch of Corey LaJoie bets. I don't even want to talk about him. He wasn't really that good. 16th, started 29th. Didn't really hear from him all day. I really had expected more from him. Again, a little bit of that was obviously as president of the Corey LaJoie fan club. I was putting my heart into that, but yeah, none of those were even close to cashing.
Yeah, and again, it was only LaJoie. The only reason he was 16th is because of all that late madness. So,
right,
definitely
he probably shouldn't have even been that high.
No, I don't think he would have been. All right, and then I had winning truck number under 32.5. That one cashed because the 19 truck crossed the checkered flag line to take the checkered flag home. So we were happy with that one at plus 135. Yeah, that was definitely a good, nice way to do it.
Hey, don't argue with Rod on his fastest pit stops in F1. Don't argue with Rod on his winning truck number or winning number or any number related bets. He seems to always get those ones.
I feel like that's the only one I should just give out every day.
Just right? Every week he's just got all your winning car numbers, the ranges, starting position, maybe, who knows.
Yeah.
I had Bubba Wallace to win 14-1 again, Cup Series driver in the Truck Series in a good enough car. Just kind of was throwing the dart out there after I didn't really like much at the top. He finishes 7th. Yeah, whatever. Corey Heim, 18-1. Oh, can we check and see if his crew chief has been fired yet? What a fucking idiot. What were you doing? I don't understand. There was zero unless it started downpouring and they had to call the race a la Justin Haley winning in the Cup Series at Daytona years ago. What? He went from 1st to 20th by the time they got to turn 1, Rod. That was never, ever, 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 ever going to work out for him. A couple more, if he would have had 3 more overtime finishes, maybe he'd have got back up there. But fuck, that 18-1 was tasting so good. and they just fucking ripped it up and threw it in our face. There is nothing you can tell me that would have been a good call. And the only thing is if it just rained. I mean, if you lose 20 spots by turn 1, what the fuck are you doing? I was just flabbergasted by that call, and I was screaming at my television. I don't understand what he was doing there. That's got to be the dumbest crew chief call I've ever seen. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a crew chief. These guys have tough jobs. There's a lot of decisions. The TV guys do it all the time, right? I don't know if I'd pit here. Everybody comes in, and it's like, But this was just moronic. I have no idea what that guy was doing.
Yeah, there was that was sunk like a rock too. I know that 11 car was, leading right off the jump, right? Leading the first 26 laps.
Qualified well. He was running good the whole race. And then he led so many laps. He qualified on the pole. Yeah, 18-1. And then I had Kligerman 65-1 again, throwing a dart. He had good finishes the last couple times he was here, but mechanical issues just seem to be plaguing him. I'm off Parker Kligerman for a while. I can't keep doing it, Rod.
It's gonna break your heart, man. Gonna break her. I feel like a parent. You probably shouldn't just. All he does is break your heart, Cody.
It's rough.
All right. I had Grant Enfinger to win the race. Started second. Didn't lead any laps, but man, did I feel like he should have done better. Ended up finishing in 14th. But yeah, just frustrating. I just when the driver that you pick starts second, we had first and second running up there. Our 2 picks to win, and neither one of them ended up winning.
It looked good on the starting grid. Our picks did.
Sure as shit did. All right, let's put that truck race in the books, and let's turn our attention to the Xfinity Series, where it was the Shriners Children 210 cautions, 51 laps of caution, and 147. Now they didn't go to overtime, but damn it all.
Boy, they were as close as they possibly could be.
Yeah, they were. Literally the white flag dropping as people were dropping with it. So, Kyle Larson runs away with this one. But we said it.
I don't know if he runs away with it.
Okay, he limped across the line to it. Let's put it that way.
If it hadn't been for that speeding penalty, he probably would have run away with it. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah. But okay, so we told you that the possibility was out there that Larson was going to win this race.
And I still think you're not wrong to have not bet on him. I mean, look at it. If he didn't get that late caution, he would not have been. It fell at the right time, put him back in position to get it, but he was not going to win this race had it not been for that late caution. So I don't think not betting on him was the wrong call. Again, you just have to pick and choose your spots. I was wrong. I'll say it. I thought the Kyle Busch of the Truck Series at Kansas, I thought that was the one where you hit it. I missed it. But then this week showed us William Byron doesn't do it in the trucks. Kyle Larson very close to not doing it. I mean, if that ending obviously was a great ending, another classic Darlington finish, but could have gone either way. John Hunter kind of bounces back up off of him. Larson could have spun there. Somebody else could have won this race. It would have been nice if Justin Allgaier snuck through at that point. But, it could have gone either way. So, jumping into the bets, this is why I hate this guy. Number 11 over Corey Heim. This was an easy bet, cashing him most of the day. Heim wasn't really having that great of a day. Limped home to a 10th place finish, but number 11 finishes 16th. Just throwing more fuel on my dislike for him train. So, screw you, number 11. I'm staying away from you from now on. Then I had Sammy Smith over Ross Chastain. And this one was way juiced up, minus 170. But again, this was a no doubt bet for me. 18th place finish for Ross Chastain, exactly where you expect him to be. Those DGM cars are not good. You've got to fade him anytime he is in them. So the Sammy Smith over him cashed fairly easily.
All right, I had Cole Custer as a top 5 car. This one was a battle for Cole, man. He was not necessarily there. He started 5th, but he didn't run there for most of the day and found his way to a 3rd place finish. So
top 5 in both stages. So
well, that's true. You're right. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. Maybe I wanted him to be closer than he was.
It seems like it's so weird because you just expect him to be up front, and he's not coming leading a bunch of laps. He's he's getting solid finishes now. I guess that's yay, good for you. But man, I'm still just disappointed in everything 00 at this point.
Hey, but he got us a top
But,
5
hey, yes.
plus 115.
Cash that ticket.
Third. Yes, sir. And then I had Barry as a top 5 car. 2 spots short, Cody. 2s. And he was in the top 5 too. Carson Hocevar knocked him out. And then Austin Hill had actually knocked him out too, of the top 5 there toward the very end. And Barry had to fight his way. Barry did not have the best car either. He started
a rough weekend for Barry. His Sunday. You
Oh,
almost
yeah.
forgot he was in the race if you were watching TV. I mean, he wasn't really mentioned ever. It was a rough day for Barry. So yeah. But
So,
7th place,
spots.
you were close.
2 spots. The handicap was right. The outcome was not there.
Another guy I think I'm going to have to jump off of for a while, Riley Herbst. Sadly, I don't even remember what happened to Herbst in this one. I don't even want to think about him at this point.
It was 29 laps in, man. He crashed.
Yeah,
29
he
laps
got
in.
crashed very, very early, which I guess if it's going to happen, better for it to happen early. He cashed so many tickets for us early in the season. It was a great run. He's on a bad streak of finishes at this point, so probably going to lay off Herbst for a little bit. Had him top 5 plus 375. Had him over Ty Dillon, which I think was a very good call. Ty Dillon, even in an RCR car, finishes 19th. We know that Riley Herbst, if he finishes that race, well above 19th. So was a good call. Didn't work out. I did have John Hunter Nemechek. How heartbreaking is this, Rod? I had him top 5 plus 105. He holds on to 5th after getting wrecking with Larson at the end there. I also had him top 3 at plus 210 in that last lap accident as he's going for the win. He falls all the way to 5th and does not finish in the top 3. Bad beat on that one. He obviously I think he had the best car on the day. Very, very fast. He is fast and good everywhere. We're going to continue to be talking about him a lot this season.
Yeah, he definitely had the pretty much the class of the field all day long. But I had Austin Hill over Chandler Smith as my next bet, and that actually did hit. Austin Hill finishing 4th after starting 10th, and then Chandler Smith fell into some bad luck. He only ran 67 laps, and that 16 car got collected early. So, but Austin Hill got in that wreck too.
Yeah, that was the big one for the
Yeah.
Xfinity, right? And his entire left side got ripped off. The foam was
Chandler, yeah.
gone from the car. You could see him just inside the roll cage there, basically. But yeah, you nailed this one again. This was, take the veteran over the younger guy, and wrong place, wrong time. But I still think that maybe the non-veteran prowess of that worked into that.
We just got lucky though that Austin Hill was able to get back out on the track because they both, like I said, were in that same wreck. So definitely one to watch. I had Allgaier. Yeah, I had Allgaier over John Hunter Nemechek. Yeah, this one wasn't going to cash until that last wreck where Allgaier finished 2nd to John Hunter Nemechek's 5th. This one slid into it, man. This was on the other side of lucky. So John Hunter Nemechek, like you said, at the end, crashing with Kyle, or, bumping up with Kyle Larson, just left Allgaier right there to catbird it through and cash this plus 140.
Yeah, great call. Again, you got good value on a very good driver against another very good driver. Sometimes things just shake out. If you can get plus value, Allgaier is going to be up there. Yeah, you expect John Hunter to be very good, but one small thing happens literally in the last corner, and that's all it took to cash it. So props to you. I had Allgaier top 5.
What did I say? I said that John Hunter Nemechek can finish in 3rd and Allgaier can finish in 2nd, and we're all happy.
You did say
right?
That. You did. I wish that John Hunter would have finished in 3rd, but unfortunately scored at 5th at the end of the day. But I had Allgaier top 5 plus 100, obviously finished 2nd. So that was a pretty good call. I had Justin Allgaier to win at plus 750. I really wish Larson would have got hung up a little more and let Allgaier through there. That would have been great to hit that one. And then I had Truex at plus 1600. Truex again, extremely fast. Started 2nd, up front a majority early. I mean, I guess for the part he was in the race. One of those guys caught up in the big one earlier on there. Unfortunately, lost that early, but 16-1, I think, was very good value. Man, I hope they figure out some type of deal to get him back in this car for a couple more races, because I would love to continue betting on Ryan Truex.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a factor if he can stay in. All right, this is the one where the winning number did not work out for me. I had winning number odd. Of course, the 10 car is not odd. However, and neither was the 20 car for that matter. But if the 7 would have snuck through, we'd have been happy because you would have cashed Cody at 750. But we both said we thought Justin Allgaier was going to win this. And the only reason I threw out Riley Herbst at 60-1 was just to have a super long shot in there. So it wasn't as if I wasn't on Allgaier as well.
Yeah, 60-1. I mean, yeah, that Herbst, you kind of got to take something that long, and it just bad luck, I guess. But sucks that for the streak he's been on, it kind of sucks.
It does. All right, Darlington's done for now. We don't have to worry about Darlington for a while. Now we turn our attention to the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. I'm so stoked for this one, Cody. I told you I watched Bob's video, and I just can't wait for this race.
Yeah, I'm pumped. We talked about it with Bob a little bit, right? Comp tracks, not really is one. So it's going to be interesting. This is going to be, I think that we'll obviously talk about this more in the betting episode. Tune back in tomorrow for our picks for the All-Star race. And it looks like maybe we're going to get some different things to pick already. I know Barstool's got the All-Star race winner odds up. They have the All-Star Open winner odds up. Ty Gibbs, second favorite in that one, by the way. That's going to be interesting. And Josh Berry, the first favorite. So going to be some fun stuff to bet on for the Cup Series this week. Obviously, we'll have the Truck Series as well. A lot of action to talk about, but this is going to be kind of a fun, just toss a few things out there and watch the race for what it is type of week. I'm excited. It's not necessarily an off week at all by any means, but it is kind of a laid back, chill week, and I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. All right, well then let's put a bow in Darlington. Let's, like we said, turn our attentions to head North Wilkesboro. Tomorrow we'll start breaking down the bets like we always do. But as we send everybody home, Cody, remind everyone where they can find you on social media.
Yep, follow me on Twitter at Husker_Zeeb. Make sure you check out the F1 Gambling Podcast. We'll be back on that this week. Rod and I also host that one as F1 heads to Italy for the Italian Grand Prix. That's going to be a fun, exciting one. And follow the show as well at NASCAR Gambling on Twitter.
Please do. And then, of course, get in the
Bob
Discord.
Pockrass.
Yo, thank you so much, Bob Pockrass, for joining us. That was a blast. Hopefully we can do it again. Loved having him on. Hey, and be careful. Keep an eye on the weather over there in Italia. There's some pretty rough weather that may make this Grand Prix, the F1 Grand Prix, a pretty crazy one. But we'll talk about that in the F1 Gambling Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio to everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's in between media. The back road kicks off on Thursday without me, but I'll be back again the next week after that to talk more about the All-Star race and all that going on. See you tomorrow. Talk about some All-Star racing in North Wilkesboro. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.